Alright, everybody. It's been a while since I posted on my YouTube channel, um, and I do apologize about that. I was busy either doing schoolwork or getting ready for the seasonal tournament, grinding up the ladder, practicing, and I got into the seasonal tournament and I went 2-3 in the open rounds, so that was pretty fun. And it was a really cool time, so I'm glad I did that, but it meant that I wasn't really posting much because videos just take a while to make. It takes a long time to try and edit them to the quality I want. I suppose I could just record some random games and throw them up there, but I don't really like doing that. I'd rather have at least some semblance of editing, to practice my skills. But it's okay because today is the day right before the expansion hits tomorrow, and I'm not going to be going over every card. This video, I'll explain the decks that I'm going to explain, but you should look at all the new card reveals because there's a lot to go over, and that would take like an hour for me to explain everything. So, but I'm going to go over the two decks I'm most hyped about, and I'll give like an honorable mention. Actually, maybe I should just include it. I don't have it pulled up, but it is something I'm excited for. So, the first deck that I'm actually very excited about is a Lisandra Talia deck. Also, just real quick, I'm on Out of Cards, which is a not a League of Legends, a Legends of Runeterra, and other games deck builder site because they have all the new cards, so you can see all the new cards with Shurima and just slap them in there. Um, so yeah, you can do that, which you can't do on Mobalytics. But yeah. So the first one is we saw the reveal of Lisandra, and we saw the reveal of Talia. Now, Talia, when she was revealed, I was extremely unimpressed with her. I was like, really? Landmark champion? Like, what, you copy some trash? Her level up isn't even that cool. I mean, her level up was actually my favorite part, but it wasn't like bonkers, 5 mana 2/4, like, this champ is seeming kind of booty. But then, like, the two reveals after Talia were like, oh, by the way, here's a bunch of super awesome landmarks. Um, so suddenly she went from like probably the most disappointing reveal to my most hyped. Um, but yeah, Talia. So, what is the point of this deck? Well, Lissandra, what she does is she works with these frozen thralls, which are 1 mana 8/8s essentially. Here, let me pull it up so I can show you guys the cards here. Uh, but yeah, it uses Frozen Thrall landmark to which will summon a 1 mana 8/8, and and that's pretty cool. And what she does is she summons one of them when she gets summoned, and she levels up when you summon 2 allies that cost 8 or more, and she creates a Watcher in hand when you create 4 uh, characters with 8 power. Um, so yeah, that is pretty exciting. Well, okay, she creates the Watcher in hand when there's 2, but the Watcher will its cost will get reduced to 0 when you summon 4. But that's not the point. Honestly, the point of this deck is not to win with Lissandra. I think the Watcher is really sick, but in order to do that, you have to kind of go into. I'm thinking you kind of have to go like into Shadow Isles, going for a control deck. So while this deck can win with the Watcher, that's not its main point. Although it is a win condition, it's still possible, which I think is one of the strengths of this deck is the multiple win conditions. But yeah, so what is the idea of this deck? The idea is you play your Frozen Thralls. Also, it runs a bunch of other landmark support cards along with it and predict cards because this deck is sort of high rolly, and if it's not good with predict, it won't be good at all. I don't know if this will be good. I think it has the potential to be insane, but it has a lot of issues. So kind of need to figure it out, see if it's good enough, see what's going on. But the idea is you play this Frozen Thrall, and it starts counting down each turn. It goes, turn by turn by turn. Then you play, some good 2-drops like Rockhopper or Preservarium are the two best 2-drops. Then you play like Lisandra. She summons another Frozen Thrall thing, which is trash. And yeah. And then you can play something like Desert Naturalist is really sick because you can play a 4-mana 7/8 worth of stats, which is bonkers. Because you can destroy the Frozen Thrall that Lisandra summons and summon a 5/4 in its place, and that's a huge tempo swing. Um, by the way, the idea of this deck is to build up to the point where, like, turn 6, 7, or 8, you're getting, like, 2 8/8s, maybe even 3 8/8s, like, and a leveled up Talia all attacking at once. It's like a huge swing turn that just threatens to just kill the opponent, and they don't really have many ways to deal with it. So the idea is throughout the game, you're putting all these like pieces into place, and then on turn 6 or 7, you're going off. And how are you going to go off? Well, you're going to go off with Draclorn, Inquisitor, and Talia. So first, ideally, you'd want to play Talia. You copy the landmark, you copy the Frozen Thrall, and since it's an exact copy, the countdown will be as low as possible. Also, you can throw Promising Future in there for the meme. Go ahead and read that to its effect. This is a meme and like a surprising swing, but it may not be very good. Anyways, Talia, you copy the Frozen Thrall that's already counting down. Okay, then you have 2 Frozen Thralls in there. Your Talia is probably leveled up, which means she's going to deal like 6 with like pseudo overwhelm. We can go into Talia's level up and say, but the main thing is you copy it. Then you play Draclorn Inquisitor, and now you have 2 Frozen Thralls on the board that are less than 4, and they get popped, which means you're summoning 2 8/8s for basically 1 mana with this 5-mana card on turn like 6 or 7, depending on when you can play Draclorn. And then your next attack token, you're swinging with an 8/8, another 8/8, possibly a Lisandra, a 4/5 Draclorn, and maybe, like, I don't know, if you got the Desert Naturalist combo off, like with a Grumpy Rock Bear, if you got like Psy Scout in, like you have other cards, and you're just hitting for this huge swing that will either win the game right there or will cripple them enough that they can't come back from that. And that's it. That's like the whole point of the deck. So the dream curve here is you play Frozen Thrall on 1, you play Rockhopper on 2, you play like Lisandra or Psy Scout on 3, maybe even Unraveled Earth, because Unraveled Earth will give you 4 out of 5 Talia level up. Then you play Desert Naturalist, get the Grumpy Rock Bear on one of the millions of things you have summoned, whether that's the Lisandra, Frozen Thrall, or the like Rockhopper guys or whatever. And then you play Talia, copy the Frozen Thrall. By the way, board space might be an issue, but the idea is like some landmarks will be destroyed and you're trading down. Like there shouldn't be a situation where you have too much stuff that you won't be able to copy the landmark with Talia. Anyways, you copy landmark with Talia on turn 5, and on turn 6 you play Draclorn. At the end, he pops both your Frozen Thralls, and turn 7 you swing. And that's kind of the main idea. But we have a second really sick combo where all you need is 2 Talias in your hand. So it's like, oh, all you need is 2 of your champions. I know it may not happen, but in the cases where you do have 2 Talias, what you do is you play a Talia down on a Frozen Thrall, on that Frozen Thrall card. Then on turn 6, what you do is you Ancient Hourglass your Talia, so it'll create a stasis statue. Really quickly, let's pull up Hourglass. So you do stasis statue here, which will put your Talia in a little box. Okay? And then you play your second Talia on here, and now you have 2 of these stasis statues. They come out. You have 3 Talias, and her level up will fill the stack with a ton of those like rock things, and you're attacking for 18 damage if they don't block with just her like little like rock fling things. Not to mention your Frozen Thralls might pop, or obviously the combos of like Desert Naturalist or whatever you have on the board. So there's sort of 2 win cons here. It's important to note, I'm not a very good deck builder. My thought was this deck kind of relies on a high roll, right? You're really relying on that Frozen Thrall turn 1 into the Draklorn and Talia combo. Um, you know, that sort of sets your whole deck up. So if you're doing it that way, then you want all the predict cards so that you can find your high roll curve, right? So that's why you're running like Aspiring Chronomancer, you're running draw cards like Unraveled Earth. So yeah, I don't think this deck will be very good, but I think it has potential. And I think at some point, I don't think this is the list, but I think at some point there will be an amazing deck builder, and he or she will figure out this list and just make it insane. Because the ability to swing with a bunch of Frozen Thralls on turn 6 or 7 is insane. Like, attacking with 3 or 4 8/8s is just bonkers. If you can pull that off, it just requires a deck that can actually pull that off. Is really the only thing there. So we'll see. This is my first deck that I'm hyped for. The second deck that I'm very hyped for is Renekton J4. I think this is probably one of the most anticipated decks of the new expansion. Lots of people are saying that they don't want to pair Renekton with J4. I'll go into that in a bit. But I'm very excited to pair Renekton with J4. I love the idea of Renekton. When he was first revealed, he was also underwhelming because it's like, why would you have a challenger? Like, why would you have someone who's synergized off a challenger and he doesn't even have challenger? That doesn't make sense. But they gave him enough support cards that it works, right? Exhaust is really strong. His champ spell is really strong. And Demacia is really strong. So the idea of this deck is a mid-range deck, sort of, where you're finishing with J4 and King Jarvan 3. And you're sort of just blowing out the game by turn 6 or 7. Like, this will be, like, once you hit turn 7, you've probably already won. Like, you either win before, or you lose before turn 7, or you win on turn 7. I seriously doubt that you won't be able to win with this deck. So what's the idea here? Well, we're running Penitent Squire because good 1-drop. We're running Exhaust because Renekton. Honored Lord is really good in this challenger stuff. You want to be playing J4 when he's leveled up at burst speed on the attack, right? So on turn 7 or whatever. We have Rockhopper here. Just a solid card, grants something vulnerable. Obviously really good with Renekton. And just this 2-mana, 2-mana 3/1 stat line sometimes seems like not that good, right? 2-mana 3/2 or 2-mana 2/3 is really where you want to be. But the 2-mana 3/1 stat line is insanely good because a 3/1 chump blocker can trade with cards costing up to 4. It's a fearsome blocker, and when it has a good effect, it's really strong. We can see, that Freljord card, that Frostbites, is really good. And that's a 2-mana 3/1. I think Rockhopper will be similar to that, where it's almost an auto-include in any Shurima deck. Rolling Sands is it's a 2-mana 3/1 grant an enemy vulnerable, the next enemy they summon. And I think that is more powerful than granting a strongest enemy vulnerable and granting a particular enemy vulnerable because it locks out their plays. Like, imagine you're playing against an Aphelios deck and he plays the combo. He plays Lunari Duskbringer on 1, and he gets that pedal, and on turn 3, he's looking to slam down his Aphelios and also summon a 3/4 challenger, and that's huge tempo, right? Like, we've all seen that high roll. It's like the staple of Aphelios decks. It's insane. Well, guess what? They're feeling good about the high roll in their hand. You play Rockhopper on 2, and now they can't play their Aphelios. That's probably the best part about it, is they can play their Aphelios and still get the 3/4. But if they play Aphelios that turn, it's going to have vulnerable for the rest of the game. Like, oh, come on, that's horrible. That's horrible. So Rockhopper can lock out plays so hard. Even if it goes on a bad minion, it's really good in this deck. Rockhopper is just a really strong card, I think. So then we're running Sharp Sight for protection. It's just Sharp Sight is a bonkers Demacia card. Probably one of the best cards in the game. So yeah, just throw that in there. Now Cataclysm, this is one that's controversial. Many people aren't running Cataclysm, but I think it's insane with not only J4 and Renekton, like it's obviously good with Renekton because he gets his buff and he gets the free attack. It's good with J4 because that, but it's also really insane with scout units because scout units you get a free rally off of this when it's not your attack turn. So this counts as a rally with scout units and it's like a removal. So it's like a removal and a rally with scout units. Now we're not running many scout units except for, King J Jarvan 3. That's our only scout potential here. But I think Cataclysm has extreme potential. I think it's better than Relentless Pursuit in this particular deck. And it also levels up Protected, so it's very good. Okay, Rampaging Bakai, solid removal. This card is bonkers. We're running Ruin Runner because this card is bonkers. Like, we're playing, a very mid-rangey deck. Both of our 5-drops are just bonkers. Then, obviously, you're swinging on turn 6 with J4. Maybe you play, like, Cataclysm Renekton, and then summon J4 from that. J4 is going to be your high roll. He's obviously giving you Cataclysms in hand. His level up is absolutely insane. And then if they're not dead from all the challenging and removing you're doing, and just insane stuff you're doing with J4, then you have King Jarvan 3 coming down, and that will finish the game. King Jarvan 3 pretty much just ends games. Also, if you look here, J4's level up is whenever you challenge, he gets barrier, and he also always creates a Cataclysm. So you can attack with him twice on attacking turns. He removes everything. Like, J4 is just the king of, you don't get to have a board anymore, because I said so. King J3, also insane. You're going to have J4 on 6. Everything getting scout and challengers, just insane. It'll blow out games. And yeah, that's the deck. So these two decks are the ones I'm really looking forward to. I was most hyped about. I think as more cards have been revealed, this Talia Lisandra list is looking a bit less insane, right? Like when the first cards that were revealed were like Talia and Lisandra, and like like they had revealed like Renekton or whatever. I was pretty hyped about this because summoning 2/8/8s on turn 7 or whatever seems like, oh, I just win the game right there. But the rest of the expansion is so busted that this is already looking on the weaker side. So we'll see what's happening. It's important to note, though, so this is my J4 Renekton list. Bruised by God, who is a streamer, and he created arguably one of the best decks last season in terms of Zoe Aphelios with Grand Plaza before the nerf and stuff like that. That deck was, in my opinion, the best deck in the game at the time. He made that, and he's sort of the king of these, like, Demacia value decks. Like, if there's a Demacia deck that can be insane, BBG will be the one who created it and is also playing it. And it's important to know that he actually doesn't think Renekton is going to be good. He thinks that Sivir and J4 is going to be the best pair. So you should definitely watch out for that. This is also insane. Sivir is really, really good. Just a 4-mana 5/3 quick attack spell shield, like, really insane on its own. The level up is also good. It grants all your stuff spell shield when she's attacking. Whatever, doesn't matter. But he's also running. This is the list he wants to run. I think he was trolling with Inner Sanctum, so don't run this card. This is he was memeing. But other than that, this is the list that is like from a known Demacia good player. So something like this is probably going to be better if you're looking to win, is a Sivir J4, is what I'm expecting, because BBG is playing it, and it's like, that's probably what's going to happen. So yeah, those are my two most hyped decks, but there is another deck that I'm really looking forward to. Well, not another deck, another archetype, which I believe BBG also made, which is Kindred Twisted Fate. So Kindred is one that I'm really excited for, because I love control decks. I'm just I'm gonna restrain myself from playing them. Kindred is not the lamb. It's like both of them. So you should say them or whatever. I don't know. Kindred, I'm holding myself off on playing them because I think they're a little bit toxic, to be honest with you. Um, but oh man, do I love control decks, and Go Hard TF with Kindred seems like something that will be insanely broken and unfun to play against, which is exactly the kind of decks I love to play. Um, I just love control decks. I think it's important to note. I don't like it because it's degenerate. I like it because it's control. And I also like it because it uses Go Hard as like a tool and not like a win con. So yeah, the idea with this deck is you're running Twisted Fate, Kindred, um, all the cards that used to be with some more stuff like for Twisted Fate support, and you just sit in the back, control their board, win with Kindred, like just running them out of cards. Just eventually they won't be able to play any more cards, and you'll have infinite value out of Twisted Fate. That's it. That's the whole point of the deck, and I think this is going to be a really cool concept as well. Um, so yeah, those are my thoughts. Tell me what decks you're looking forward to. Um, but I think these are going to be the most fun for me personally. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the expansion.